Welcome to this edition of Tax Matters. I'm your Fulton County Tax Commissioner, Arthur Ferdinand. On today's program, we are privileged to have as our guest Mr. David Fitzgibbon, Fulton County Chief Appraiser, and Matthew Buff, Accounting Administrator with the Office of the Tax Commissioner. Welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And David, let me introduce you to the citizens of Fulton County. This is your new Chief Appraiser. And David came to us from Washington, D.C., where he last worked. But David has a long history in Fulton County. Why don't you tell the audience where you worked in Fulton, in Georgia, as a matter of fact, before going to Washington and then coming to Fulton County, back in Georgia?
I've been in Georgia for 22 years. Most recently, before being recruited to go to Washington, D.C., I was the Chief Appraiser in Henry County, Georgia. Prior to that, for 14 years, I was a self-employed consultant and contractor. I did either full countywide reevaluations or partial reevaluations in about 50-something counties in Georgia and a few in some other states, Mississippi, Alabama, and some consulting work in about 14 states over that year. Prior to that, I was the Chief Appraiser in a North Georgia county, and prior to coming to Georgia, I was Director of the Property Tax Bureau for the State Tax Commission in Mississippi. And I've been in the business about 40 years, originally from Memphis, Tennessee, where I got my start at the Shelby County, Tennessee as Assessor's Office. My background covers just about everything from mapping, aerial photography, remote sensing, appraisal. I think I've appraised probably just about every type of property that there is, from nuclear plants to rock quarries, rural farmland, commercial industrial buildings, and residential properties.
Very good. What about air rights?
Have done air rights. We had a lot of air rights in Washington, D.C., had some in Memphis, but mostly we did air rights, both above and below ground air rights. Interesting appraisal problems in air rights.
Very good. Well, welcome to Fulton County.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you have been here about 9 months now.
That's correct.
And this is your first cycle as a Chief Appraiser.
Yes.
You have sent out the notices already. What are you seeing in terms of the property values increasing or decreasing across Fulton County? What does it look like now?
We sent about 300, a little over 331,000 notices. About 150,000 roughly of those showed decreases in value. About 149,000 showed no change in value, and about 26,000, roughly 26 to 27,000 showed values that increased over the prior year.
So over 50% of the properties that you appraised here in Fulton County in 2012 showed a decrease in value.
That's correct.
And about 45% showed no change, and just about 5% or so increased.
That's correct.
That's a significant decline. About what percentage decline are you seeing? 5, 10, 8% in those that dropped?
We don't really look at the average on the residential or commercial side. We did look at what the tax digest changed, and it changed about 3% overall. That was due to a large number of increases in the commercial sector, particularly in the Class A apartments, and some areas where we were seeing some market indications that the commercial sector was doing a little bit better. Due to all of the foreclosures, and most people that were in that situation had to move to rental properties, the apartment market has been pretty strong, particularly the better apartments that we call Class A apartments.
Okay. Now, of these properties that decrease, are they mainly residential? Mainly residential?
Mainly residential. We did have
residential
some,
commercial?
Yeah, we had some decreases in commercial as well. The office market is still not doing real well, and some of the mom and pop type stores, some of the retail, particularly some of the strip centers, are still not doing as well. The industrial type, the warehouse, the large spaces were doing a little bit better, but again, mostly just the apartments were all that we saw really a increase in the value or increase in the market activity of those.
Okay. Any particular area in Fulton County doing particularly well in terms of growth or, stabilizing so far?
The indications that we had from the market that caused us to set values that resulted in an increase were primarily in the north part of the county, and I would say probably more of the affluent areas, the 300 to 500,000 and up properties. There were very small pockets, and there were pockets within what we would normally consider to be market areas. Like there were small pockets within maybe Buckhead or Mount Perrin area, some in Sandy Springs, some in Alpharetta, but not the whole city or not the whole area showed increases.
Now, South Fulton, what's happening down there? Is it lower than 3% or averaging about 3% decline in South Fulton?
We had
unincorporated, I'm talking about.
The unincorporated area of South Fulton, we did see some increases. A lot of that is rural land. We did see not much change in the rural land. Where we did see decreases were in the smaller and older single-family homes. Some of the incorporated areas, we saw a 15–16% decrease in some of those areas, naturally primarily because of all of the foreclosure and the short sale type market in those areas.
Okay. Now you sent out, well, according to the law now, you have to send out a notice to everybody, each property owner saying what their values are going to be for the year. That's the new law. Last year we had about 40,000 appeals of property values. What is it looking like this year? What are you seeing now in terms of appeals?
At this point, we've received about 4,000 appeals total. We're receiving a lot of appeals online. We have a lot of new procedures this year that we think will make it easier and more efficient for the taxpayer. So far, as of yesterday morning, last time we tallied, we had a little over 3,000 appeals entered into our system and about 900 that we had received but not have totally entered into the record yet. It's running a lot less.
When you say yesterday, this show is going to air next month.
I'm sorry?
So yesterday, June the 18th, Monday, June the 18th, you saw about 4,000 appeals so far. I just want to make sure we get the time right.
As of Monday morning, June 18th, our statistics showed us that we had received about 4,000, roughly 4,000 total appeals. That's
slower than the rate last year, if I recall.
At this point last year, I believe we had over 15,000 appeals in the shop.
Okay. Well, that's very helpful. Now, for the audience, when you get these appeals, you have to input all those changes into the system, and that would then give the final values, at least for the governments to set their millage rates until you resolve those appeals. But you'll be able to code those as being an appeal. At that point in time, accounting takes over and starts to calculate things, and we'll get to our accountant, Mr. Buff, in a minute. However, because the number of appeals are a little lower this year, we are probably going to be able to send out bills a little earlier because you are much earlier in the process than we were last year. Now, the last set of appeals you sent out, what was the last set of values you sent out? What was the date on that, and when are those going to mature?
We sent approximately 331,000 appeals out on May 14th, with the last day to appeal of June 28th.
June 28th.
We did have a small group that we sent out some corrective notices and some other parcels that we were still in the process of finalizing. So we sent some very small numbers out with a little bit later dates, but the primary date is June 28th to file an appeal.
Okay. And to our citizens, I want to make sure they understand that this is one of the key ways to reduce your tax liability by appealing your property values. And as Mr. Fitzgibbon says, you have until June 28th to file the appeal for most of them, and a few others on July the 8th to file the appeal. If you miss that opportunity, then you wouldn't get it again until next year.
That's correct.
Take advantage of this at this time. He gave you the dates. Make sure you file your appeals on time to get the process going for you this year.
That's correct. We want to make sure that everyone that feels that they don't have a proper value gets a chance to have a right to appeal that value, to discuss it with us if they would come face to face with us. But we don't want anyone to miss their appeal period if they feel like the value is not correct.
And after it leaves your office, it goes to the Board of Equalization. And that's when the final resolution comes, unless somebody wants to go to the Superior Court. But appealing to the Board of Assessors and to the Board of Equalization, it doesn't cost anybody anything. Just want to make sure people don't understand that.
That's correct. An appeal to the Board of Assessors and an appeal to the Board of Equalization does not cost anything. There are some representatives that will represent you at both hearings that will charge you some money. But to file that appeal, all you have to do now is to go online, fill out about 6 spaces on one of our appeal forms and click submit, and that constitutes a legal appeal. They can also mail the appeal or bring it in to us as long as we either receive it or it's postmarked on or before the 28th of June or the last day to file an appeal on their property assessment notice.
Very good. Thank you very much for that explanation. We are going to take a little break and we'll be right back with you. Please stay with us. Thank you. Welcome back to Tax Matters. If you have just joined us, we are continuing our discussion with Mr. David Fitzgibbon, Fulton County Chief Appraiser, and Matthew Buff, Accounting Administrator for the Tax Commissioner's Office. Before we start, Matt, I want to finish off with David. You have a very slick and very new website. Could you tell the viewers your web address?
FultonAssessor.org. We're very happy with some of the enhancements. You can file appeals online. There's a lot of information about the appeals process. You can search sales data. You can print out mailing address labels. We'd encourage everyone to go to FultonAssessor.org, check out our new features, look at the maps, the aerial photography. It's a very helpful website for those who want to find out data about their values.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for updating the office so quickly. You have just got here, and we have a new website. Continue to do well.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Matthew. David has just finished doing his appraisal, and he has all his appeals logged in. And so we know the values. We know how much we could bill now. You take over and talk about the process, starting with the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah, as you know, there's 2 major factors that are included that calculate a person's tax liability, and that is, of course, the assessment of the property, and the other is the millage rate that's set by either the Board of Commissioners for the county, the school board, or the city in which you live in. And so they all should be in that process now, is to develop their estimate of what they feel their millage rate should be for this year based on the values they've received from the tax assessor's office and based on an estimate of the number of appeals they think they may have. And in that process, it's a very lengthy process because that's where you get into whether they need to increase millage rates, whether there's a rollback millage rate that's available to them, and all of that involves public hearings and advertisements as well. So that process should be starting here very shortly for all of the counties throughout the state and cities and school boards as well. Once they get that information and set those millage rates, then is when we really take over. We take those millage rates and those values that have been set by the Board of Assessors, work with the Board of Assessors on reconciling that data to tax billing information that we calculate to make sure that everything is on par. We get approval from the state, as last year's law change allows us to, regardless of the number of appeals, we can still get a certified digest from the state. Once we receive that certified digest, then we're able to actually mail out those tax bills. So once we've gone through our lengthy process of verifying that our tax bill calculations are correct and that the tax bills themselves are correct, then we will mail those out. And it appears this year that we're probably going to be a little ahead of last year. We should have tax bills on the street by mid-August at the latest, which will give the City of Atlanta a no later than September 30th due date, and the county's due date should remain at October 15th.
In speaking with the Finance Department, do you get any indication as to what they're going to do with millage rates yet?
I get an indication that they probably are not going to change the millage rate. I know we've seen in the paper here recently where the Atlanta Public Schools and the City of Atlanta and them have been out there, and a number of those, even the Fulton School Board, I believe was in the paper recently about not increasing their millage rate. So it doesn't sound, we haven't heard many that have talked about increasing millage rates yet this year.
Well, that would mean that for the 50% of the people who had a decrease in the value, they're going to see a decrease in taxes if all the millage rates remain just about the same. And so there shouldn't be many people with an increased tax bill this year in that case. And I would say that Fulton County and our school boards and the cities that we collect for have been very good about keeping millage rates the same over the last few years, despite of the economy, and not cutting services. I don't think Fulton County or the school boards have laid off anybody because of revenue.
I know they've been very concerned about the taxpayers and the tax liability and the impact on them with the economy. So you're correct. I don't think, and many of them are talking about increasing the tax rate just for that purpose, just to help the taxpayers.
Okay. Now, the bills go out early by August. By the middle of August, everybody would have a tax bill. We have already sent out solid waste bills. Those are on the street right now. We mailed out 131,000 solid waste bills. We are going to mail out about 330,000 property tax bills. So that's about almost 500,000 bills we will have mailed out within next month. It's the biggest office as it gets, so we do a lot of mailings. The due date for the city is going to be, if August 1st is the date, the due date would be
September 15th.
September 15th. And the Fulton County due dates would be normally October 15th, and I think that would hold. Okay. So expect an October 15th due date for the Fulton County and the cities that we collect for, Johns Creek, Sandy Springs, Mountain Park, Chattahoochee Hill. Those will all maintain October 15th due date.
Right.
Now, this year has been a very good year for collecting. And Matt, you're the accountant. What numbers are we looking at right now?
Yeah, we're over 98% collected of the 2011 taxes currently. So as of the end of May, here we're, like I say, average right above 98%. Okay.
But there are some cities that already have surpassed the 99%, if I recall.
Yeah, there's certain areas that are definitely over 99% already. And of course, we always encourage every taxpayer to pay their taxes. It's to the benefit of all taxpayers that everybody pays their share and pays their taxes as due.
Well, the key thing here, and David, you're new to the county, we believe that if everybody pays their fair share, we all pay a little less taxes. And so a high collection rate means two things for the citizens of Fulton County. Number one, it means that they're all paying their fair share, number one, nothing more. And number two, the governments can continue to provide all the services they have grown accustomed to. And so we are just fortunate in Fulton County that we are able to do that. We have a very fiscally conservative government, and they preserve services and keep it essential. So I think we have done very well in these hard times, notwithstanding how things have been in the economy as a whole. Now, let's get back to you a little bit, David. You're going to be finished your full first year sometime by the middle of next year. What other good things do you have planned for your office besides the website? I mean, that's a great start.
Right. We are going to try to concentrate more on what we can do to cut down on the appeals. And by doing that, we have to try to communicate better with the public to let them know what our job really is. We're not out there to generate revenue. We're only there to generate a good value as of January 1st. We intend, through the website, to have instructional videos and informational videos that will get more of our message out. We hope to have more in-house training of our staff to handle appeals, to deal with the taxpayers, to make sure that we're more customer friendly. We receive about 10-to-1 compliments versus complaints on what we do. So we just want to continue to improve. We have an excellent staff of very qualified, highly trained people. We have some new people, and we hope that we'll be able to utilize those people to be able to do a better job for the citizens of Fulton County.
That's a very good point. The chief appraiser is not a politician, nor is the board of assessors. They're there to set fair market value, period. The tax commissioner is elected. However, my job is not to create revenue, it's to collect it. And so in that regard, we are kind of neutral in this whole picture. You set a value, fair market, The bills are calculated, are collected and distributed. The Board of Commissioners are the politicians in this sense, in that they set the values, they set the millage rate to get the amount of revenue required to produce services. And so the more we could remain neutral of all these political things, the better off our offices would be. You stick to values, I stick to collecting, and everybody will be happy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a real important point because you hear a lot in the media about the tax assessor's office throughout the state, not wanting to go down on values because it'll affect the revenue for the county. And that's really, a disconnect because there should be no connection really to the value setting and the revenue that the county or schools expect.
Yeah. So you'll have a long life here if you stick to the values, fair market value. Please stay with us. I will inform you more about your taxes when we return. We'll take a break now. In its most basic form, the formula for property taxes is assessed value multiplied by millage rate equal property taxes. So if the assessed value falls as a result of declining property values, you can get the same amount of taxes by adjusting the millage rate upwards. During the years when property values were rising and before the real estate bubble burst, it was customary for governing authorities to blame increases in taxes primarily on rising property values because they did not lower the millage rates. Today, with property values falling and tax revenue with it, the governing authorities can tighten their belts and live within their means. During the economic downturn, Fulton County has done just that. By acting responsibly with taxpayers' money, we have weathered the economic storm without having to raise millage rates or cut essential services despite falling tax revenues over the past 3 years. The county has become accustomed to depending on a high collection rate from its tax office, and this year was no different. By the end of May, we surpassed 98% in collections for fiscal year 2011 for all jurisdictions for whom we collect taxes: the 2 school districts, the City of Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Johns Creek, Mountain Park, Chattahoochee Hill, and all community improvement districts. In fact, collections for Sandy Springs and Johns Creek already exceeded 99%. Our high collection rate history, along with our relatively low tax delinquency, allowed Fulton County to maintain an extremely high rating and get tax anticipation notes at an unprecedented low rate of 0.16%. The 2012 budget is set. The assessors have set property values. The Board of Commissioners is about to establish millage rates for 2012. Tax bills will be mailed in July. The governing authorities can depend on the Tax Commission's office to do its part in collecting taxes so they can provide uninterrupted services to residents of Fulton County, because when it comes to your money, tax matters. Of course, we look forward to hearing from you on today's topic in particular, or any other related issues. Contact our office at 404-730-6100 or email us at taxmatters@fultoncountyga.gov. That's all the time we have today. We'll see you next time on Tax Matters.